Hi, I'm Gary Klaus from Genesis Rescue Systems. This is my partner Tim Grant, also from Genesis Rescue Systems. Today we're going to go over cross ramming to create space for an entrapped patient in a T-bone type of accident. If we're going to have a hard entrapment, we want to make sure that the proper tools come off of the truck and are staged properly for the operation we're going to take care of. As we talked about in a previous video, we've got our power unit placed about 5 to 6 feet behind the back of the vehicle, and you can see with 30-foot hoses, we can easily reach each side of the vehicle without ever having to reposition our power unit. One of the big injuries that we find in any type of T-bone accident is a crush injury to the chest, where the patient has not a lot of room to breathe. So the first thing we want to do is expand that room to give the medics room to operate and also to give some expansion room for the chest. Now, we have a lot of people when we do these classes that the first thing they say is, well, I would cut the roof off immediately. The problem with that is if we cut the roof off first, then we destroy the structural integrity of the vehicle itself. Now, what we want to take a look at is patient compartment space. Now, fortunately, Cletus, my little rescue monkey, doesn't take up a whole lot of space, but if this were a live person, you would see that they may be compromised in between the posts of the vehicle or the post and a tree itself. I'm real big on do it once and you never have to do it again. You can see that the trunk lid here would impede us from making any type of smooth move operations. So one of the first things I would do would be to cut the trunk lid out of the way completely. It's gone, we never have to deal with it again. The next thing I would want to do is make sure that I have the right rams set up to go for the space provided. You have to know what size rams you're going to use. Now, sometimes the first ram that you're going to use is your spreader because it really is the smallest ram we have. We have to make space to use the ram and the spreaders efficiently. Now, if we take a look inside, we can see that our headrests may be the first thing that we have to remove. You can try to reach in and have them dislodge by pressing the little buttons. Sometimes they'll just slide on their own. Sometimes you may have to cut them out of the way quickly. You can see how the hourglass comes in very, very low. Looks just like an hourglass. So we want to get as much space as possible to get our rams and our spreader into position, keeping in mind the most important thing, and that would be patient position. Now we want to make sure that we cut as much of the deck lid out of the way as possible. A cut down takes the same amount of time as a cut up high, only now that extra piece of steel is completely out of our way. You want to be very aware of where the patient's head is as to where the blade of your cutter goes in, so the cutter itself doesn't slide into the patient's head or the back of their neck as you're cutting. One side is usually ratcheted in, the other side may be free. So cut one side, see if you can spin it, and then lift it out of the way. Be able to just spin that and bring it right out. Extrication working space is always at a premium. For today, we don't have a tree in our way, but normally you're going to have this car up against something. So to bring a spreader in from the back side and to work over a patient's head might be a little precarious. One of the things that you can do is take some type of pike pole and pass it from one side of the car to the other. Two rescuers then hold the weight of the spreader itself. Your spreader operator can maneuver the spreader into whatever position he wants, and then your pike pole can hold the weight of the spreader itself. This way your operator concentrates only on operating the tool and not holding the weight of the spreader off of the patient's head. Your spreader operator's job is to direct the two firefighters that are holding the pike pole to position it properly. The two guys holding the pike pole can't be lazy in this operation. They have to maintain the weight of the spreader off of the patient's head. When you're ready to go, nice and easy is the word. We'll start to make our spread. Down a little. Good to go. Your spreader operator has to be extremely careful because at some point your spreader arms will become so open that they may slip off the plastic. Remember, this is a game of just enough space that we need to get the patient out. Now, we always have people that say, well, what's going to happen when you take it off? When you displace a vehicle using the strong points of the vehicle, you'll see that a lot of that space will stay intact. Now, you can see that the space that we made just by using our spreader to displace the B-posts has given us a lot of room to operate, but you can see how the window frames have bowed out. The window frames will not stay straight as the rest of the car does. They will actually bow and curve out in the impacted shape. This may create a problem for us because our heads may get caught in there or something else may get caught. So if your cutter guy is on the ball, or if you think about it, order your cutter guy to cut the window frames out as much as possible. So you can see the cuts our cutter made got as much of the window frame out of the way as possible. If we remove them once, we never have to work with them again. We would normally have a tree here, but the tree got cut out of our video budget, so our apologies for that. Once they're gone and out of the way, there's no impediment to us working in here safely. No catch points for our gear, our helmets, clothing, anything as such. We have a nice clean working area. The next thing you want to do is clean up as much of the plastic, rubber, and weather stripping as possible. Cut it out of the way if at all possible, so we have a nice large working area. Now if you take a look down, you'll see that we have plastic on the B-posts. Almost impossible to get the plastic off of the B-post if the seatbelt bolt is intact, because it's actually pressed on after the plastic is in place. We want to know that that can possibly be cut out with a Sawzall so we can get to the steel itself. That's what we're trying to get our ram to bite into, the steel of the B-post, if you have to displace it further. For today, we're going to show you exactly what we're talking about by making those cuts so we can displace our B-posts even further away. A Sawzall is a tool that most of us carry on our trucks, but is really an afterthought on a lot of extrications. Or the guy with the Sawzall will wait until there's some free time to do anything. If you have the Sawzall, don't worry about being proactive. Just jump right in and get things done. We know that we got to remove this plastic so we can get as down low on the B-post as possible, so that's a Sawzall job. There you go. Now by cutting out the plastic, you can see on the passenger side a strong point. Anytime you have a bolt or additional steel, you have extra strength and rigidity there. That's the point we're going to shoot for to push our ram head into, because it's not only bolted on the outside here where you can see it, but there's also a support on the inside. Again, we want to come from a position of strength on everything that we do. When you put your ram into position, try to get your handle as horizontal as possible. It gives you the most amount of working room in case you need to put another ram in. Now, again, we're fortunate today that we don't have a tree here. You may actually have to take your pike pole long ways so your rescuer can hold up one side of the ram through the long axis of the vehicle. Go ahead. Good. Now you can see that we have tension on it. One trick that you could possibly use, depending on how short your working area is to take a pike pole from the back side to operate the mechanism. Using the flat end of a New York hook, you may just be able to operate, specifically if you're short on rescuer space. Now you can watch as the ram will move one side of the vehicle until it becomes stronger. It will then stop and then the other side will start to push out. You can see how one side has now become stronger. Now our passenger side is starting to expand. Now this may go back and forth 2 or 3 or 4 times depending on the strength of the vehicle and how far your push stroke is. By using the strong points of the vehicle, B-post to B-post, at their inwardmost point, you can see how we've displaced this vehicle quite a bit towards its original size. Now, once we take tension off of our ram, the bulk of this space that we've already created will stay. But you can see how much space we've made to get our medics inside, to give our patients a little bit of room to breathe. Okay? At this point, once we remove the tension on the ram itself, you can then go ahead and either take the doors off, do a 2-door rip and blitz, or maybe you may decide to completely take the roof off. Be advised though, if you take the roof off first, you'll have a much harder time taking the doors off. So if you're going to open the entire car up, get at least the back doors popped off so you can do the 2-door rip and blitz, then cut the roof off, and you'll have the entire car open to get your patients out. We've taken our ram out of the way. Now if you take a look at the interior of the vehicle, you can see how much space remains. And that's solely because we've used the strong points of the vehicle to defeat the weak points of the vehicle. I hope you enjoyed this quick video on cross ramming. Hopefully you can use some of the tips that you've learned here on your next hard extrication. I'm Gary Klaus from Genesis Rescue. My partner Tim Grant. Thanks for watching.